All right. So there are a good number of pilots who fly Mission Peak fairly regularly, and there's some anxiety about going cross country out of Mission. And I've flown this route, not this far, but this route a couple times. And I don't think there's as much to be anxious about as we think. Um, there are some LZs on the way. And anyway, I just want to kind of go over the route that I took, at least down toward Anderson Lake. I'm not sure if we need to go much past, even Gilroy or um, because I think most of the anxiety is about the first, I don't know, let's say 20 miles or so. So I'll just kind of go over what I was thinking, the LZs that I had in my mind, and some of the other things that I was thinking about. I'm not going to talk about weather predictions or general XC strategies or anything. I think those are best handled in other sessions or so. This one is really specifically about flying XC out of mission on the south route. So, with that in mind, there's one thing that I want to point out though is this is not the day. I forgot to do screen captures of the um, forecasts for the day that I flew, but it was kind of similar to this. It was very light wind, kind of out of the west. And this is at 3,000 feet or so. But more importantly, it was super widespread thermal. Again, similar to this. Ceiling might have been a tad higher, but it was pretty similar to this. It was just showing widespread lift um, all over the Bay Area. So it looked like a good opportunity to go. The one thing to keep in mind about flying Mission and the South route is we have a pretty complicated airspace. Um, it really doesn't get into the way too much, but it's certainly something to be aware of because we're kind of flying in this little gap between ground and we have a ceiling of about 6,000 feet. I think at Mission it kind of opens up to 8,000 feet later on. Um, we don't usually even get that high, and on this particular day I only had one climb that took me above 6,000 feet, and that was well south. That was down by Anderson Lake. So for the most part it really doesn't get in our way, but if it is a super good day, um, you really need to keep that in mind. Then there's also Reed Hillview Airport. That's the light blue circle down here, and that'll pinch you up against the hills, um, and kind of take out one or two potential landing zones down under that airspace as well. Um, but otherwise, it's just something to keep in mind. So drop that guy away. So let's spin Google Earth around, and we'll start from mission. And by the way, Google Earth is awesome. Best thing to come out of that company. So I'm going to try to fly this almost at the ceiling that I was reaching. I'm going to, once I get it situated, I'm going to try to not move this around too much because it kind of bugs me when I'm watching other presentations and people are mousing around and everything. So I'm going to try to just move it slowly and then talk through it. I'm not going to talk much about leaving mission. Yeah, I got lucky on this day. I climbed right out, but really, we all know that route up to 11. And so, of course, your first bailout is 11 LZ. But again, we all know that. There's no secret there. Um, the thing to keep in mind is as we go over 11 launch and you climb out, probably that's where you really want to test the day and see what you think. Is it kind of dependable lift? Is it, you know, again, what kind of lift do you think it is? Is it ratty? Is it shearing off? Because once you start, now you're kind of committed after 11. So if the day doesn't feel right, it's just not worth it. But once you do leave at 11, um, the first kind of potential landing zone that you run into, oh, I went too far, and I'm going to show what I had for bailouts. So these little question marks that will appear on route are the things that I kind of was eyeballing for my bailouts. Now, since everyone on this chat or everyone watching this session has flown Mission, if you're going XC from Mission, then you've certainly flown there before. You've probably flown McClure. The reason I bring those two sites up is because a lot of the landing zones that are in this first stretch are probably going to be, you're probably going to be targeting like a little bit of an uphill somewhere. So you'll probably be, dipping down into a low point and then taking an uphill landing. And again, just like we do when we're going into the main windsock LZ at Mission, diving down into or over the pathway and then taking a little bit of an uphill. Or again at McClure, you're diving down into the saddle and then you're landing on the uphill. So again, we're familiar with these kinds of landings. I'm not talking about fly on the wall. There are plenty of those along here as well, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, relatively easy uphill landings. So this Big Dog Vineyards bailout is about 2.5 miles from 11. So there's plenty of opportunity. You can stretch yourself out here over the golf course and still have a reach back to 11. This is Sandy Will Lake, or a forward reach into Big Dog Vineyard. What we used to, at least what I always used to feel like I needed to do, is always look out toward the main San Jose Valley for landing zones. I mean, that's kind of the way my thought process has always been. Our landing zones are always down in the valley, our launches are up on the hill. And so I'm always thinking, well, all my landing zones are going to be out in the valley. But I think that's one of the things that prevents us or provides all this anxiety about leaving Mission, because I think the first landing zones that you're going to be targeting are all up along the top of the range itself. So again, this Big Dog Vineyards, this dark spot is a pond. So that's a level area and water is always at the bottom of a dip. So that the hillsides always run down into the pond. So, and then the other thing is, if we are going XC for Mission, you're pretty much guaranteed you're going XC on a day with either a north wind or a west wind or northwest. So you're always going to be, drifting downwind to it. The reason that's important as well is because, at least for me, I'm always looking at the south face of the hills or the west face of the hills, because I'm going to be coming in one of those two directions. So again, this Big Dog Vineyard seems to have a fairly decent opening with relatively shallow hillsides, and I think you could land on any of those. There are plenty of other opportunities all around here as well. Again, you're looking for shallow hillsides. There's really nothing too flat. If it is really flat, it's probably occupied by buildings. So no good. I used to look over here at this this little development on the right-hand side. It seems there's a dip and some hillsides there, but I really don't like that anymore. I think this vineyard is kind of the thing. The next thing after that, again, if you look off to the right, it's just looking kind of ugly over here into the valley side. So on this particular flight, oh, and before I want to do that, I'm going to keep swapping back and forth. My camera wasn't working when I left mission, but it turned on about at Alum Rock. But I have a spot back. And if you can see here, this is really the first shot I have back looking back toward mission of that big dog vineyard with this red area. And again, this is the settling pond. And you can see kind of shallow hillsides here. It's all green, no obstructions, no trees. So it looks totally feasible to land in there, if you ask me. So after leaving Big Dog, um, then you come up to Alum Rock. Alum Rock is also looking like kind of an ugly area, down toward the valley side. But to me, I was kind of eyeballing the top of Alum Rock itself. There's a parking lot up here. There are some shallow hills, near the road. There's a little level area down right in here where the question mark is. That's kind of what I was eyeballing as a landing zone if I needed to go down there. There are one or two others though nearby. And how come they aren't showing up? Just zoom out here. Oh yeah. So there's another level area over here, and I'm just moving my mouse around so you can see. Um, this also looked like a totally landable area. It actually looked pretty flat and everything. Um, if you aren't comfortable landing up on top of the hill, if you don't see anything worthwhile up top, you can bail out down bottom here. I think that's totally feasible. Um, again, my mentality is shifting. And in fact, if I were to fly this route again, I might even try to stay a little deeper back here. I didn't really look at LZs back this far, but next time I fly this route, I might fade back deeper into the hills and then eyeball some things back here because it looks like there are landable spots back here. One of the problems, however, is if there are 3 or 4 of you in the, flying together with a single chase, if people go down through these various landing zones, retrieve is just horrendous because everything's kind of like a spoke in, and then you drive back out to the next thing. It'd be really inconvenient. But anyway, so from Alum Rock, oh, and I'll show you what I was seeing. So this is Alum Rock um, from up top. And again, you can see this little bit of a corral, a little bit of a, I don't know what that would be, not a parking lot, but I mean, these two things make up kind of a corral area. I was eyeballing, this looked like a fairly level area. Parking lot by definition is fairly level. I was looking kind of back here as well. Again, the camera right now is pointed east, so the wind would be coming again from, my glove off to, from left to right. So if I did land, I would be looking for a hillside that's facing south, and I would be coming in, from right to left to land. And again, just take the uphill wherever it is. But again, I do think it was fairly level around through here. On the north side of this road, I do think there are some, soft or low profile hills. again, to take a little bit of a mild uphill on those. The bottom LZ from the air is down here. Again, I think this whole area looks fairly level. It may look a little bit small in the picture, but I think it's plenty big enough. If you look at some of these houses down here, again, that's probably 200 feet long or so, and you can set up over the houses and come in pretty good. So again, this Google Earth, we're right now at an eye level of about 5,000 feet. 5,000 is kind of where I was topping out most of the time on this flight. So after leaving Alum Rock, the first thing that I saw was this airstrip over here to the left. And I was eyeballing that for a long time. That was my bailout until I actually started thinking about this presentation. And I looked at that bailout, and on Google Earth, well, do I have it? Yeah, one of the things you'll see here, it's X'd out. I couldn't see those X's from my vantage point. But this is an X'd out airstrip, and I'm not sure that this road actually has vehicle traffic to it. I'm actually hoping someone else can tell me, because this is a great bailout. Otherwise, you're looking at a bailout here. Again, this is a fairly level area. It's kind of in a saddle here between some hills. But this particular little strip is, I think, pretty level with actually an uphill at the end. So, I wouldn't even think twice about landing here. I think this is a good bailout as well. Again, continuing on, I'll go up just a little bit higher. So those are really the only big problems, because now what you're coming up to is Joseph Grant Park. Again, the lake is, certainly level. This hillside around the lake isn't bad, but there's also this pretty big field right in Joseph Grant Park itself. I haven't really gone up there to check it out, but from there it looks pretty level. I wouldn't think twice about landing there, I don't think. At least from the air, it looked okay. But there are plenty of options all around it too. There are more fields up in this area of Joseph Grant Park. It looks like there's, some hillside slope here that's totally landable. I think this whole Joseph Grant Park area has a lot of possibilities. So again, I was kind of flying along this ridge between Joseph Grant Park and San Jose Valley, but it looks really good. The landing zone that I always used to keep in mind is Evergreen College. There's an observatory at the very end, and again, I'll try to zoom in on this a little bit in just a little bit, but out here near Evergreen College is a little hilly area, just undulating little hills that we land in. I've landed in there before. I think that's where most people land. This ranch back in here, I have heard, is unfriendly. So even though that looks like a great landing zone, everything back there, I think that is a do not land zone. I've just heard stories about an unfriendly landowner back there. So the difficulty with this particular area is it's your last landing zone before this big jump to Morgan Hill. But instead of bailing out to the right-hand side, if you look at the east side, and Joseph Grant Park is a bailout, you actually have even yet another opportunity. There's a little barn at the end, there's about a mile and a half from the from the lake to this little barn. So if you're flying along the ridge, that really extends your reach pretty far. Because this barn, there are campsites through the back here. So road accessible campsites all the way back to that barn and a field beyond that. So let me show you what those look like from the air. Again, from this, we're leaving Alum Rock. Up here left is that airstrip. Again, I would like to know if that's viable or not. Down to the right is that little level area that I was saying. Again, the picture here is a little tilted, but this is a fairly level saddle that you can land in. Again, no obstructions anywhere. And if there's a northwest wind, you'll be landing with a headwind as well, so that really helps. Again, that airstrip. And this is coming up to Joseph Grant Park in Grant Lake. So again, it looks like there's totally landable areas all through here. This is the view of Evergreen College. So from the start of Joseph Grant Park, this is the view of the bailout that I always used to keep in mind of Evergreen College. And it's a bit far away. This is a view from the very same thermal of Joseph Grant Park, which is much more accessible and much closer. Well, closer. And this is what I was just mentioning. So this is Grant Lake in the beginning of Joseph Grant Park. This is Snell Barn with campsites all throughout here and road accessible through the park, of course, all the way out to Snell Barn and a nice field down here. So this extends your reach by over a mile that you can keep, if you're low. And again, from this vantage point, you can see that I wasn't very high at this point, but I was just kind of squeaking it along. And I was eyeballing this barn area if I had to bail out. And this is a view again from the very same thermal, almost, of Evergreen College. So, it's a fairly decent glide out to Evergreen College. Again, totally fine to land there, but I kind of like the barn better. And again, this is the view of the field and the barn. But about here, I managed to grab a thermal and climb out. And so this is the next landing zone on the way. This is San Felipe Ranch.
Again, I had a question.
Yeah.
So you said the one ranch was not very friendly.
Yeah.
I was just noticing on Google Earth, it looks like there's a second ranch right beside it. Are they both unfriendly, or do you have any idea?
I
I
don't know.
see Edwards Ranch right beside it, and it looks pretty good too. So it's just, yeah.
Yeah,
It's to the north.
I don't really, I don't really know. This was years and years ago. I just remember as I was trying to stretch out, when you're flying this route, it looks like a great, I think it was this field right here, or this set of fields. I think three of
So I
them
was just
are
looking 2 fields down from that,
these.
even more. Yeah, I was
And
looking at that, and that one looks pretty nice.
it could be. It could be. I've never landed in any of these. I think
Yeah,
this stretch, again, it's looking like prime territory if you're trying to stretch your reach before
right.
making the jump to Morgan Hill. But these are, I know, back 10 years ago, these are no bueno.
Got it.
So
Okay.
um, So again, if you're following instead, though, if you're looking off to the east, you have this whole San Felipe Ranch area, um, which looks great. This is all perfectly level stuff. It's got a road right through it. It would just look great to me. Um, Big. So again, um, instead of trying to fly this front ridge and get out to, Morgan Hill or whatever this, I forget what this Coyote golf course is. Um, you know, Now I'm just looking back here and saying, yeah, it's safer and it's better. Um, and then from San Felipe Ranch, then you have this whole um, Shingle Valley. This is just a wide flat area. Um, Again, another great landing zone. And I think I have just that last picture. So this is San Felipe Ranch. Oh yeah, one little bailout on the way if it was necessary. And then again, this is a stretch because it's my last picture before my camera died, but this is that whole Shingle Valley um, flat area, which is looks great. But you can see it's a pretty long glide to get out to Morgan Hill at this point. So I totally understand why, at least why I never flew back there before, because I was always thinking, oh, well, I need to be out and accessible to 101. Um, but I've stopped thinking that way, I think. So from there, from Shingle Valley, then now you're looking at, Anderson Reservoir. Um, from Anderson Reservoir, again, now you're into the regular bailouts. There's this Coyote Creek bailout. Um, there's um, So this Harvey Bear is also a Santa Clara County Park, but I got yelled at for landing in here before from one of the rangers. So this is, it's a great field to land in, but they don't really want us there. I wouldn't say don't do it, um, but there are plenty of opportunities all through here. There are all kinds of fields, but somehow they don't want us in that one. There is this Coyote Lake is the flying site that for decades we kept trying to get open. And it just never worked. The launch was over here on the left-hand side, but I think we can still use this bailout. There's a tree or two in the middle, but this is a totally landable spot if you want to stay deeper in as well. So, and anyway, that's it. From here on out, once you're past Coyote Lake, now you're into, wide open farm field zone, and there's nothing to worry about anymore. Um, all I was trying to do, I just did this jog because I wanted to stay away from Pacheco Pass. It's just a Venturi tunnel through there. Nothing dangerous about it. It's just there's just no lift through here. So I just tried to give it a wide mouth. And I was following clouds out through here to get by. But anyway, that's about it. That's what I wanted to cover. If anybody has any questions, um, I'm totally open. I just think it's not as the first one or two landing zones I can understand being a little worrisome, but I think they're not as bad um, as we would normally think. This Big Dog Vineyards and even around Alum Rock or even this lower Alum Rock bailout. These landing zones are only about maybe 2.5 miles apart. So, as long as you have 1,000 feet, you can, it's not bad.
Hey, Wayne,
Yeah.
Wayne.
Yeah.
This is Rick. Have you ever driven by car to some of these LZ bailouts just to check it out?
I have not. Yeah, I have not. I would like to, but no. I'm just really just making an assessment from the air. If I had to go down, where would I go? Um, Even down here, at the south end of Calaveras Reservoir, there's some nice fields here, but they all slope the wrong way. Again, if you're flying XC, you're going to have a north wind pushing you toward the south, and all of these slope down into Calaveras Reservoir. Um, there might be a little hillside here somewhere you can take an uphill, but yeah, I just wish it was sloped the other way. It would help out.
Hey Wayne, this is Tom. What kind of communication did you have with your driver or your ground crew during your flight?
Yeah, no, I had really good. I was flying with 2 meter, so I had my 2 meter ham um, with my mobile unit in the car. We had great communication most of the way, except of course when he was driving down the backside of Mission.
Right.
Um, yeah, otherwise we had pretty good comms.
Awesome.
Uh,
Okay, thanks.
and then of course I was flying with my GPS tracker, so if you needed to, you could bring up my track log. Um,
On that note, any ideas about the cell phone coverage, like maybe south of Morgan Hill in that area?
You know, I don't know. Cell phone coverage is pretty bad at the top of Mission and at the top of Ed Levin. So I wouldn't count on cell phone coverage up into these hills anywhere. I don't get it. I mean, like from the top of Mission, you would think you would have clear sight of a bunch of towers, but I guess maybe their radiation profile is, to maximize horizontal propagation instead of anything vertical. Um,
I would say west of the ridge is the cell phone coverage is pretty good, and east of it, it's almost non-existent. I've literally picked up like my iPad while I'm flying airplane in this area. I regularly can, access data while I'm in flight. Given
mhm.
I'm at a pretty low altitude, I'm usually about 2,000 to 3,000 feet. But west good, east bad.
Yeah. Again, if I had to give, one takeaway from this whole thing is um, just keep in mind that you have a northwest wind. So there are probably not that many level areas for the first, 5 miles or so, or 10 miles. So you're probably going to be landing, taking an uphill. And of course, just like at Mission or just like at McClure, as you come into the depression, you're going to get into a wind shadow. So just carry speed and then land the uphill. If you think that way, I think there are a lot of opportunities. Well, that's it.
Great, thank you, Wayne. And in addition, do you have waypoints for all these like great LZs that you mentioned? Be great to have a kid.
Um,
Yeah.
sh- yeah, so yeah, I could set out all these bailout points that I put. Again, I have not landed in any of them. I have not scoped any of them out. Don't take them at my word. Um, those are just the ones that I was eyeballing as I was flying along. Oh, and the other thing, it would not surprise me at all if any of these property owners are really tired of us. Not so much hang glider pilots, but I would bet that paraglider pilots have landed all through here. And I don't know how the reception has been for them. I heard some chatter about an unhappy landowner back here, but I don't know who, and I don't know how unhappy. So
Um,
I
I
don't
did
know
have one
who
question, Wayne. Is you said you encountered a lot of GA traffic that day, right?
I did. Yeah, there was a lot of GA traffic. It was a great day. And again, I was flying mostly with a ceiling of about 5,000 feet. Most of the GA traffic I saw was maybe 4,000. Does that sound right, Takeo?
Yeah, that probably is typical. One note back where San Felipe Ranch is, actually just between San Felipe and Anderson Reservoir. At
Yeah.
5,000 feet, that's the aerobatic box for Reed Hillview. So be careful when you're in that area.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah, I definitely had a guy fly under me through here.
Yeah.
Um,
You'll hear him because it's like aerobatic airplanes are very loud. But the other thing is this corridor, the purple line that you're showing right there. So
yeah,
that is typically like the downwind departure for 30, the both runways at Reed Hillview out to the south. So just keep your head on a swivel when you're in that area is all I can say to everybody.
got it. Got it. Yeah, I don't know what to say. There's not much more. Like I said, most of this talk was really just to try to address some of the anxiety about leaving mission and flying this direction. Um, I'll just go over the rest of the flight here. It was pretty fun.
One more
Uh,
question about the Big Dog Vineyards. Like, what's the altitude of that hill?
of what?
Altitude of Big Dog Vineyards is the first like LZ in the up in the hills as you go south of at 11. So that's a little bit up. So yeah, we need to account for that altitude while like looking at the glide, whether we can make it. If it, I'm guessing somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000. Doesn't
Yeah,
look
let
too
me see.
low.
I think it's
Um,
quite a bit lower than Ed 11, so definitely like between 2,300
oh, I
and
know.
1,000, right?
So
So
San Felipe Ranch is showing 1,000 feet. I'm looking down here on the right-hand side. I'm sorry, can't read it, but San Felipe Ranch, this whole area is about, 1,000, 1,100 feet. Um, Big Dog. So Big Dog here is also showing about 1,000, 1,100 feet all through here. So about 1,000 feet. Yeah, they're lower than at 11. Alum Rock might be the highest one. Yeah, the Alum Rock is 2,000 feet. So this is like landing the top of Ed 11-ish. I've looked at this field over here as well, but there are some high tension lines going through there. Um, if it was a smooth enough day, I wouldn't mind landing maybe beside them over in, the far area. But if it's any kind of a turbulent day, I don't want to be anywhere near those guys. Yeah, it's hard to see, but there are some high tension wires going through here.
Yeah, it'll certainly be great to drive out there and check out in person.
Yeah.
And but we're talking of like flying in the middle of GA traffic. I know like ADSB is like not feasible for us, but something like Flarm and Fanet, and there are lots of small varios which can do those. Is there something which the GA people watch out for?
only ADSB.
On the
Yeah, no, Flarm is not a thing in GA.
right.
You can buy an ADSB receiver that's really little called a Sentry, but you have to power it, and then you have to be running something like ForeFlight on your phone in order to be able to see the traffic.
How about transmitting it?
No, they won't see you. You can't carry ADSB out.
I see.
Yeah, that's specialized equipment. Oh, one note. I have, and I'll confirm this, but I have heard that UL traffic is welcome at San Martin Airport. So that's another one that's across the highway.
Okay.
I know the
Yeah.
airport manager asked specifically. I do know that ultralights fly there, but I don't know if hang glider traffic has ever landed there. But I mean, technically, it's not illegal. It's just whether it's like the locals are going to be unhappy or not. That's all.
Yeah, there was I know as I was flying by there, um my blade was barking at me about airspace. So I steered clear.
Yeah, there's no requirement to steer clear of San Martin.
Got it.
There
Yeah.
is a actually it's to your right there. You can see the little green icon, but there is a parachute drop zone that's west of that point, west of the runway. So you don't want to be there under pretty much any circumstances. But east of it, you're good to go. And TPA there, I think, is 1,000 feet. So as long as you're above 1,000 feet AGL, you're technically in the clear. If you're flying through pattern altitude, then yeah, you're probably gonna have some very upset people with you after you land. Um,
Got it.
but it's there's no legality associated with it. Let's put it that way.
All right.
Right. Any other questions for anybody?
Yeah. So this is great to like learn about the LZs and the route and things. I mean, uh, of course, like the critical factor is weather, isn't to determine like whether it's even worth trying such a flight. So yeah, as in kind of things that you look for, like which makes for a great day to make such a flight possible.
Yeah. Well,
And it happened.
so the only thing I brought up, again, I did not get screen captures of the weather forecasts or the windcasts on the day of. But it was similar to this. So on that particular day, there was, you know, again, not at high altitude, but about 3,000 feet. There was a light northwest wind, kind of turning in, gave us kind of a westerly flow over mission and everything. But it was just super light everywhere. But more importantly, the thermal forecasts were just widespread lift everywhere. It was just, wide instability, low ceiling, but just wide lift everywhere. And if you look at these things often enough, you'll notice that usually there's a band of lift that peters out really early in the day. It might just be over, the high ground, that the entire valley, all these western hills and everything are just completely shut down. But that particular day, it was just widespread lift like this with, some cues everywhere as well. So it just made for a really nice day. I don't know what else to say about it. It wasn't a boomer day, but it was very pleasant and very widespread lift. And if you look at my track log too, you'll notice that I didn't really fly through. I took almost every thermal that there was. They were just very evenly spaced out. And there really weren't any cloud markers. Every now and then I would like beeline for a wispy that looked like it was developing and everything. But for the most part, almost the entire route was in the blue, which was a little odd as well because there were clouds surrounding me in all the higher terrain. But if you look, these thermals are really spaced out pretty evenly, and I took almost every one that I could find because I didn't know when it was going to end. So anyway, it was a very pretty impressive day.
Cool. Any last questions for anybody? Going once, going twice. Okay. Thanks very much, Wayne. I hope we get to hear you talk on some more subjects, but this was a great one since a lot of people are interested in it. And, we always hear about the PGs going everywhere, and we're kind of mostly limited to mission and Ed 11 when it doesn't look like we need to be. So I think maybe
Yeah.
we should go do some scouting trips and look at some of these LZs with our own eyes. And then, like I said, I may, scout the route in an airplane one of these days.
Yeah. And I hope I didn't jump around too much. I try
No,
not to.
it was great.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Wayne.
Good night.
Thank you, Wayne.